How do you control anger, frustration, and impatience? Super good question, because we usually get lost in energies like that. What we want to understand is that anger is just an energy. And the more we can understand about what those energies feel like as sensations, we can stop telling ourselves that we're not supposed to feel what we're feeling. So when fear comes up, when impatience comes up, when any of these sort of, let's say, labeled negative emotions come up within us, if we immediately tell ourselves we're not supposed to feel that, we are effectively creating a blockage in how that energy can flow through us. What you don't realize is when a blockage is created in the flow of that energy through your meridian system, through your nervous system, through your DNA, that alters the structure of the water around your cells. It alters the structure of the symbolic codes that inform what kind of energies and information actually can flow through you. And so when we are telling ourselves not to be afraid because we're not supposed to be afraid, you're effectively taking a beach ball and you're pushing it under the water. And no matter how many times or how far under the water you push that beach ball, it's always going to come to the surface. And so it's really important for us to give ourselves permission to feel what we're feeling. Because if you are afraid, your child self, your inner self, your shadow self has a reason to be afraid. There is a reason to be afraid with the frequencies that are being pumped through everyone right now. And so if you can start to understand that, okay, I am afraid of heights, or I am afraid of speaking my truth, or I am afraid of showing up fully and being rejected by my peers, or I'm afraid of my family telling me that I've lost my marbles. Whatever you're afraid of, whether it's even imposter syndrome, all of these fears are there for a reason, because there's a program and a belief and a symbolic structure that's encoded into your DNA that causes that energy and that fear to show up in certain scenarios. Your first step within that is actually to give yourself permission to be afraid, because what that does is it allows you to actually sit in the position where that fear exists, and usually that's your child self who is still operating on a very old program that's very likely to be outdated from the perspective of your adult and higher consciousness. So when you sit in that position of that fear and you give yourself permission to feel it, what I would want you to do is to find where that is located in your body. Are you feeling it in your solar plexus? Are you feeling it in your throat? Are you feeling it in your knees? And just look at it. If you can just look at that and give it permission to be there, what you'll find is a lot of times that energy will just dissolve and flow through you, and that will allow that to move. But there's more steps. If all you do is get that energy to move, you haven't corrected the underlying program that runs that causes that energy to show up in the first place. So what you want to be working on is, once you navigate the fact that you are feeling what you're feeling, whether that's impatience or anxiety or fear, you give yourself permission. You find that still point, that grounding, which is not going outside and walking barefoot. Grounding is an internal practice. You find that grounding so that you can actually look at the story that your child self is experiencing. Your child self is afraid of running out of money. Your child self is afraid of ending up alone, and there's a reason that your child self has those abandonment programs that run through you. So can you track back into your childhood where those programs were created? What did your family say to you? How did your family express love? And when you see how your family expressed love and you see how that was shown to you, you start to understand, oh, these are programs, these are distortions over the top of what love actually is and how that flows through. That then allows you to alter those underlying beliefs and those underlying programs about, why am I actually afraid of speaking my truth? Why am I afraid of being rejected by somebody who isn't my customer anyway? Why am I afraid of speaking my truth on social media and selling my products and getting my name out there and showing up in my fullest expression of self? And I'm stopping myself because all of these voices around me, all of these people who are showing up on my social media are telling me I'm wrong, are telling me that I'm not good enough, are telling me that I'm doing these things in a way that is not the way that they want to see me do these things. And when you realize that you have spent so much energy selling to your peers, and you spend so much energy selling to people who aren't going to give you money and aren't your customers anyway, then you start to shift your lens and you start to be able to let go of these people who are not going to show up in your life in the way that you're actually asking for people to show up. But as long as you continue to pour energy into the fear and into the impatience, and you start to pour energy into these people who aren't your customer, you're going to keep creating scenarios where that fear shows up, where those non-customers show up, where those people who bully you show up, because you're creating and blocking the flow of that energy, imprinting that code. That code informs how that energy flows. That is then channeled back to you by the people who carry that energy. So can you start to release those programs and step out into that precipice of doubt and start to be able to create the things you want to create by talking to the past versions of yourself that you actually want to help transform, that you actually want to interact with, that you actually want to show up in, so that you can actually deliver the medicine that your soul came here to deliver. This is not about sitting in your fear and convincing yourself not to be afraid. This is never about fighting what you're feeling. It's always about giving yourself permission to allow that to flow, so that the other things that you actually want to flow can flow through you and create the reality that you actually want to experience. This is a practice. It's a constant awareness of what energies are showing up and what you're sensing. Whether that's you walking down the street or that's you having a visceral fear that you're experiencing, what are you noticing as sensations in your body? And can you start to translate those not as labels, but as energy spectrums, almost like different colors? And as you begin to do that, you'll gain the muscle strength needed to understand more detail within those energies, and then you can use them like those energies are actually meant to be used. You can call in specific energies to create certain results, and you can move things through you using your imagination, using your awareness to be able to actually create the results that you want within the people that you're communicating with and within the people that you were once afraid to express yourself in front of. And if you can start to really practice that on a regular basis, your fears and your anxieties and your imposter syndromes will literally dissolve away as a roadblock in how you show up. You don't have a fear that shows up. You don't have that narrative that starts talking to you. You don't have that inhibition that shows up when you go to do a thing, because you've allowed those energies to flow and you've allowed your own consciousness to flow, and then you just show up. Then you just play. Then you just create. So hopefully you found that helpful. Hopefully that gives you a starting point on how you can start to deal with your fears. If you need any more help on this process and being able to actually dig into the actual programs, I actually have a Freedom Teachings group where we meet every weekend, and all the sessions are recorded, where you can go through not only all of the practices that I teach for healing fear and relationships and money programs, but you can also start the process of DNA activation. And this bioregenesis protocol begins reweaving the stranding in your junk DNA and in your dormant DNA and in the subharmonic content that is in the overtones and base tones that are in your DNA strains. As those weave, you begin to translate higher frequency information. You begin to be able to pull in higher intelligence information from your higher dimensional identities that are constantly sending information into you, but due to distortions on our genetic template, that shows up as chaos, as fear, as anxiety. And as we activate that, you can better translate those signals into cognition so you can apply them and interact with your reality in a much more powerful way. Would love to see you there.